Okay, now that we've gone over the skills that we learned in grade 9, let us continue with what's going on here. We're going to be multiplying monomials. Remember, when we multiply terms, monomials, we multiply the coefficients, the numbers, and then we multiply the variables. So we group them in that way. So 3 times 4, in fact, these can be considered coefficients. So 3 times 4, just like so long ago, is 12. So I can organize it in that way. Now, 3 times 4y, I can look at it 3 times 4 times y. Well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply the coefficients. See how I wrote it in a different color? And that's simply because I'm thinking of them almost as separate operations. 3 times 4 is 12. And all there is left is a y. Y to the power of 1. All right. Moving on to C. Now remember, we multiply the coefficients and then we multiply the variables. We group them in a very special way. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to think of it as 3 times 4. So I'm going to group those coefficients and then y. And then don't forget about that y. So the first step is almost organization. So 3 times 4 is 12. Y times y, well, remember, y to the power of 1 times y to the power of 1. You add the exponents, so it's y squared. All right. See, organization really does pay off. So now, we're going to start earning our money here, and maybe the questions are going to be ever so slightly more difficult. So 3y cubed times 4y to the power of 5. What I'm going to do is I'm simply going to reorganize this as 3 times 4 times y cubed times y to the power of 5. So I notice that this is a multiplication sign, so I can redistribute all of my multiplication. I've grouped the coefficients together, grouped the variables together. 3 times 4 is 12. Y to the power of 3 times y to the power of 5 is going to be y to the power of 8. Remember that when we multiply variables, we have to add the exponents. Now, just for a refresher, give me 3 seconds here. Here's y to the power of 3. It's really shorthand for y times y times y. Now, y to the power of 5 just really means y times y times y times y. Is there any way that we could shorthand write this? Sure. It's y to the power of 8. That means that we have 8 factors of y being multiplied to itself. That's what it means. All right. All right. Hopefully we're going to switch up our numbers here, which seems great. Do you notice how there's brackets here? Much prefer brackets over this. Right? If you look at D, there was a multiplication. Somebody's going to get confused somewhere. Is that multiplication sign in D an X, or is it a multiplication sign? In E, it's much more clear, I hope, that this is a multiplication between 2 monomials or 2 terms. So I'm going to treat this as 2 times 4. So I've split this up. I'm treating the coefficients separately. Now, w squared times w to the power of 5. So I have on the left my coefficients, on the right my variables, and 2 times 4 is 8. Y to the power of 2 times w to the power of 2 times w to the power of 5 is you add those exponents. It's w to the power of 7. I hope all is good here. F. So what we have here is something interesting. We have d to the power of 3. What is naturally implied, in front of that d to the power of 3, is a 1. So I'm just going to reorganize this. I'm going to put all my coefficients. Now, some people would say, well, d to the power of 3 has no coefficient, but it actually does. It's 1. And that's going to be an important aspect. So I'm going to group all the coefficients, 9. And then I'm going to group all the variables. It's d to the power of 3 times d to the power of 7. Now notice I just put a dot there. So right now, my coefficients multiplied together is 9. My variables is d to the power of 10.